Thomas is in Swansea. Thomas, what would you like to say?
Hi, James.
Hello, mate. Sorry. I went off on one. I don't know how Donald Trump came out of into the proceedings. Let's steer me back to Brexit, please.
Oh, well, don't get me started on Donald Trump. Okay, yeah, so I voted leave.
Yes.
And my wife voted leave. And at the time, I don't think we were fully in the realm of knowing the full structure of the European Union. And now that I look back at it, my vote was a Westminster protest vote.
Yes.
I looked around the country, I've seen on one of your shows, house prizes, 8 times higher than they were 20 years ago.
Yes.
And, infrastructure, things are crumbling, work needs doing, the NHS. I was thinking, right, the only way things can get better, it was a gamble. Do you know what I mean? It was like playing poker. We can have a gamble and, things could get better.
I don't know, even that, I think poker, it was more like, I don't want to carry on like this, and the only offer I've received in recent years for what would feel like a really big change is this one.
Yeah, but now when I look back at it, I realise we've been playing Russian roulette.
You're going to stay with your games, aren't you, on this one? We've got from poker to Russian roulette. I like it. You're right, actually.
It's Russian roulette. And the way, my obligation as a father and a parent is to leave this country better than I found it for my kids. And when I listened to the Brexiteers now, Jacob Rees-Mogg, Nigel Farage yesterday, we're still dealing in hypotheticals.
Yes,
we can't
that's all they will ever have. The only question the country faces now is, will we discover that the Emperor, will they finally be forced to admit that the Emperor had no clothes on after the country's gone off a cliff, or will we somehow be able to stop going off a cliff and then they never have to admit it and they can carry on heckling and throwing rotten tomatoes from the sidelines for the rest of their miserable lives?
Well, I thought from your book, maybe the only way to deal with this is a no-deal Brexit, because then the reality will set in and the people around the country will realise, wait, we got it wrong.
Yes.
Admittedly, it'll be too late, but at least that might unite the country again into realising this was wrong. But now I think of it and I think, no, we'll just find something else to turn the hate towards.
But look at what they're doing this week. It's all Theresa May's fault. I feel no sympathy at all for the woman, but she has literally been trying to operate in the straitjacket they laced her into, and now they're chucking her under a bus for not being able to produce a rabbit out of her hat.
Yeah. And if we leave on no deal and things get, a lot worse, it'll be the European Union's fault. They shouldn't have allowed this to happen.
Absolutely, or Remainers' fault, or, I don't know, the political establishment fault. It'll be the elites' fault, and they'll be writing their columns in the newspaper owned by the owners of the Ritz about how the elites are all to blame for the mess that's happened as a result of the things they said wouldn't be a mess, and all the people you should really be blaming are the ones who told you it would be a mess. It's madness. But I like today's. I appreciate I've not exactly been bombarding my listeners with callers. I'll squeeze in a lot more before 1 o'clock, I promise. But you and I, we shouldn't be enemies, on any page or on any stage. And I know you've now changed your mind, so it's easy to say that we shouldn't be enemies, but I shouldn't hold any ill will towards you for what you did in June 2016, because a point that I've perhaps not made often enough is what you did was logical.
Yeah, but I think my main point on it would be the ill will has to stop and people need to just grow up a little bit.
Yes.
And we need to realise that, like I said, we're leaving this country for our kids. And now is not the time for pettiness and squabbling. It's the time for people to get back together and sort the country out.
To double down on the denial. And if we're going to get back together and start trying to pull away from this period of horribleness, this period of profound pain and unpleasantness, then ideally we'll do so in the best available economic circumstances. And now we know what they are. We weren't sure before. We know as if we want to keep manufacturing, if we want to keep agriculture, don't take my word for it, ask the economists for Brexit. If you want to keep manufacturing and agriculture, you don't crash out with no deal. You don't, ideally, even Brexit at all.
The last point I would probably make before I go is this. I see a lot of people going on about leave, and, leave means leave, and this, that, and the other. What strikes me is that, the first thing is, when you've got Boris Johnson and Michael Gove, and one supports the withdrawal agreement, but one doesn't,
I know.
There's no unified leave.
No, doesn't mean anything.
We can already shout, 17.4 million, but those two people alone are showing that 17.4 million people had different views.
You're such a sneering, condescending metropolitan elite, Thomas. Honestly, I don't know how you sleep at night.
But it is. It's the democracy argument, though. I just don't get it.
No, do I. Which people? This is it. The will of the people. We hear it every single day. We hear it 10 times a day. Do you know what we never hear, Thomas? The point you've just made? The will of which people?
It is the will of which people.
The will of which people?
You're on about, being condescending from Dominic Raab, who, anybody who's done geography in school knows Dover to Catholic. But anyway, if I find it condescending for a government to say to me that I can't change my mind in 3 years, yet they're allowed to have 3 votes on a withdrawal agreement in 1 month, just in case they change their mind. Now, that is condescending.
Stick that on the side of a bus. And you put it beautifully. You put it absolutely beautifully. It's 10:45. You're listening to James O'Brien on LBC.